My name is Keshwani. That's K-E-S-H-W-A-N-I, Keshwani. We are here because we want to improve our English. We want to improve our vocabulary. The way we do that is by learning few new words every day. Few words a day is what's going to do the trick. Today is our day number 23. 23. The very first word that we want to learn today, which is probably you heard in connection with the other word. This is how people talk about ulterior motive. And a lot of the time, people think that it means, they think the word ulterior, they think means some other motive. The reason I wanted to talk about this word is because there are two problems here. First problem is that, contrary to popular belief, the word ulterior does not simply mean some other. There is more to it than that. That's not the full definition of the word ulterior. The second problem that we have at our hand is that, contrary again to popular belief, the word ulterior is not to be spelled with an A. It is to be spelled with a U. Many a times I have seen people spelling it with an A. Ulterior is U-L-T-E-R-I-O-R. Ulterior. Let's put down the pronunciation first before we talk about the meaning of it. Ulterior is very simple pronunciation, but I want to put it anyway. Ulterior. So what does it mean, ulterior? It says some other. Is that what it means? Well, in a sense, yes. Let me put down the... It does mean some other, but it means some other. Well, there is more to it than that. It means, ulterior means there is some other motive that is not being disclosed, that is not being shared, that is not being made public. And that's what the word ulterior means. It doesn't just mean ulterior. People confuse the word ulterior with alternate sometimes. They have nothing to do with each other. So let me put down the proper definition of ulterior. Or if you like, you can think of it as some other motive that is not being disclosed. A motive, or if you like, some other motive that is not disclosed. Or divulge, or made public. So what does it mean, ulterior motive? When people talk about somebody having an ulterior motive, it simply means that when somebody is doing something, on the surface it may look like they have a certain motive, certain reason for doing it, but they have some other motive that they're not sharing with you. They're up to something else that they're not disclosing with you. They're not sharing it with you. Let me give you a simple example. Let me give you a simple example of an ulterior motive. Let's say you're driving somewhere on the street in the country, in a rural area, or even on the highway, say for example at night time, and your car breaks down, and somebody pulls behind you and gets out of his car and offers you help. You might think that, well, what is he up to? Does he really want to help me, or does he have some other things in mind? Does he have other ideas? If you're wondering like that, what you're asking yourself is, does he have an ulterior motive? Does he have a motive other than what he's pretending to show on the surface? Does he have another motive that is not being disclosed, not being divulged? He does not tell you what he has in mind, what his real reason is for stopping and help and wanting to help you. He may in fact just be a good Samaritan, or he may be up to no good. Who knows? Now don't worry about why I keep using the pronoun he. Don't worry about that. That's something called gender stereotype. We'll talk about that some other day. We don't have time right now. The meaning of the word ulterior is a motive that is concealed intentionally so as to deceive. So let me go back and do a proper job of it. Ulterior could simply be some other motive that is not being disclosed. That does not necessarily mean that that's a bad motive, or somehow a person is trying to trick you, or somehow a person is trying to inflict harm on you. And that's their motive, but they're not telling you. It doesn't necessarily mean that. But it could mean that. It could mean a motive that is being concealed. See, this part only says a motive that is being concealed, that is not being disclosed, not being divulged. But it could also have a meaning of a motive that is being concealed intentionally for the purpose of deceiving you. And that is an ulterior motive. So again, one more time, ulterior motive does not necessarily mean that the motive that they're not sharing with you because they're up to no good. Maybe they're not sharing with you because of some other reason. Do you understand? Maybe the person is doing something good, they're being nice, and they just don't want to make a big announcement of it. So they're not telling you what they're up to. They're not telling you the other motive, but they have a good intention at heart. It could be that also. Let's learn these two words. Divulge and disclose, which are simple words, I'm sure, for you, but as I always remind you, being a non-native, sometimes I like to make sure that I know the words that have potential of giving some trouble. So I want to cover them. Let's put them down here. We still have room on the blackboard. Divulged. Well, it's right there actually. I don't know why I want to make fuss about it. To divulge, divulge, it's a verb. It means to disclose or to reveal, to make public. To make public. As in to make it a public knowledge. That's all. I want to move on to something else, a different word, entirely different word, which had nothing to do with ulterior. I just wanted to cover it for two reasons. Again, the two reasons were, one was the spelling. People tend to misspell it. And the second reason is people think for some reason that ulterior motive means just some other motive. It does mean some other motive, but it does not do the justice to the nuance of the word. It is some other motive that is not being divulged. You have to say that. Simply having some other motive. If I have some other motive and if I tell you what it is, then it's no longer an ulterior motive. It's some other motive that is not being divulged, that is not being disclosed, that is not being shared with you. And that's when it qualifies as an ulterior motive. Okay, let's move on. The next word I want to learn is circumspect. Circumspect. The word circumspect, let's put it here. Has two parts to it, the prefix and the suffix. Let's first talk about that so that we understand what the word means, what the word literally means. The prefix is circum, which means around, which is where we get our words like circle and circumference. Around. And spect means to look, which is where we get words such as spectator, spectacles as in eyeglasses, many such words which have the root of spect as in to look. Spectators, as I said, or spectacles. So what does it mean literally? Literally, circumspect literally means to look around. Look around as in to be careful, to be prudent, or to look around as in if you're looking around, you're cognizant of your environment. Well, here's a good word. I do not know how to spell these bloody words that I know, and I do not know cognizant. I think it's Z-A-N-T. Z-A-N-T. The word cognizant comes from the word cognition, which means to have knowledge. Oh, there you go. C-O-G-N-I-Z-A-N-T. I was right. So that's what it means. To look around as in to be cognizant of your environment, to be aware of your environment. You're alert, to be cautious. There you go. To be cautious. To be wary, if you like. To be watchful. Or as I just said, to be cognizant of your environment, of your surrounding, to pay attention to one's surroundings. There you go, circumspect. Very simple, very straightforward word. To be cognizant of your environment. As in you're looking around. That's it. Let's move on. Another word, completely unrelated word. Again, of course, we need to take it down this. One more time. Circumspect, circum, around, spect, to look. To look around as in to be careful, to be prudent, to be cautious, to be wary, to be watchful, to pay attention to one's environment, to be cognizant of one's surrounding. Circumspect. The next word I want to learn, or we want to learn rather, is a fun word. Oxymoron. It's a noun, oxymoron. What does it mean? It simply means, let me erase this part here because this word I will cover in the future. We'll cover it in the future properly. Cognizant, it means to be aware of it. To be aware of something, as I told you before, it comes from the word cognizance. If one has cognizance, one is cognizant. Adjective. Oxymoron. It just means to have two incongruous or contradictory words that are used together. In other words, two words that are used together, two words, if you want to put it in simpler terms, two words that are used together which are opposite in meaning. A word comes to my mind. I want to look it up first before I actually use it in the context. The word is erudite. Let's see if I have the right word in my mind, which I think means to be learned, to have a lot of knowledge or something. There you go. All of these words that I put on the side, these are digressions, they come out of nowhere, and we'll cover them in the future, as I said. Erudite, cognizant. It came to my mind just now because what I was about to say is that this is more of a simpler definition, in a more of a colloquial expression. Two words that are used together which are opposite in meaning, as opposed to saying two incongruous words that are used together, which is more erudite, more of a academic, more scholarly definition, something that you will find in a dictionary. This is a simpler meaning, the second meaning that I put down there. Where was I going with this thing? Oh, what does the word incongruous mean? Well, incongruous means exactly what it says here. Incongruous means two things that do not go together. If they do not go together, they are said to be incongruous. We'll cover them. We'll cover it next time. Now, when I say next time, it just means sometimes in the future. You understand? So, that's what an oxymoron is, where you use two words together, but the words themselves contradict each other. Can you give me an example of an oxymoron? And of course, the most tried, the most cliched example, and again, if you do not know the word tried, I hope you do, because I covered it someplace, I don't know which day. It's somewhere in the videos. It just means overly used, ordinary, banal, common example that one hears when one talks about an oxymoron is, for some strange reason, American has this fascination with a jumbo shrimp. I don't know why, but that's what they talk about, jumbo shrimp. They're fascinated by this whole notion of a shrimp being a jumbo. Another example that you might think of an oxymoron, another example that one might think of as an oxymoron is an expression that you might have heard of. One sometimes hears of a deafening silence in the room. Something grave has happened, something extraordinary has happened, or in the courtroom, and one talks about a deafening silence. Well, there you go, that's an oxymoron. It's deafening, and yet it's a silence. What I'm trying to say is that the silence is very conspicuous. The silence is very, very, I don't know how to finish my sentence. That silence is very powerful, it's very conspicuous, and hence it is expressed as a deafening silence. Let me give you another example of an oxymoron. People talk about, all the time, people talk about generic brand. Generic brand. What does the word generic mean? Perhaps we should cover that in the future also. Generic, where can I put it? Even though you may think that it's a simple word, it is a simple word, and yet a lot of people actually do not know exactly how to define the word. They cannot articulate it. What does the word generic mean? Do you know? Generic simply means not specific, not brand name, something that does not carry trademark, something that does not carry a brand name, as I said. And therefore, generic simply means not specific. That's what it means, not specific. As in, it carries no brand. And yet, people talk about a generic brand. If it's generic, the bloody thing cannot have a brand. And if it had a brand, it wouldn't be a generic. It's enough to say, give me generic cigarettes, as in give me cigarettes with no brands on them, no brand name. Give me generic medicine, You go and buy a certain medicine at the prescription shop. Why do I call it prescription shop? I'm sure they have a better word for it then. The place where you buy your medicine. And sometimes they talk about selling a generic brand, they say. What they mean is generic medicine, because it has no brand. There is no such thing as a generic brand. Because as I said already, if it has any kind of brand, it wouldn't be generic, because generic itself means carrying no brand, being not specific, being general, being of having no trademark or name. That's what it means. Let me give you one more example that I don't know, I'm not going to put it on the blackboard, of an amusing example of oxymoron. When I'm playing with my 8-year-old, and sometimes when I tease him and I tell him, "You are a chicken," and he would turn around and says, "Yes, but I'm an intrepid one." An intrepid chicken he goes, "I may be a chicken, but I'm an intrepid one." Let's put the word intrepid here also, we'll cover it in the future. Oh boy. Intrepid means to be brave, to be courageous. And intrepid chicken, because chickens for some strange reason have acquired a reputation of being cowardly. So to be an intrepid chicken is a bit of an oxymoron. And of course he's being silly. So I may be a chicken, but I'm an intrepid one. There you go, that's your oxymoron. Deafening silence, generic brand, and of course, we mustn't forget the jumbo shrimp. That was it for today. I hope we are expanding our vocabulary, you and I together, learning some things a little bit at a time, and make it a fun. Don't turn it into a chore. Have a little fun with it. That's why I take my sweet time. I'm not in a hurry. There are lots of videos on the YouTube and everywhere else where they give you one word after the other. Every 10 seconds a new word pops up and they read the meaning of it in a very robotic voice. You're not gonna have much fun with it. At least this one, I hope. I'm not sure. I hope that this is a little bit more helpful. Listen, if you wish to get hold of me for personal private tutoring, if you're preparing for GRE, GMAT, SAT, or TOEFL, go to any of these website addresses and send me an email, and I'll try to help you in whatever way that I may be able to. Or you can go to kashwaniprep.com and send me an email from there. I provide private tutoring, face-to-face tutoring, one-to-one tutoring, in person or over the internet via Skype or over the telephone. Alright, thanks.